Alright guys, it's probably about that time when we swing back on over to that horrifying place known only as the SCP Foundation, poke our noses and a few of their more well-contained filing cabinets and recoil in existential collaborative terror at some of their more gut-wrenching and mind-bending entries. As is often the case, the SCP Foundation and the end of the world go hand in hand, but from a purely fictional perspective, the Foundation is home to some of the most creative, well-rounded and ingenious speculative concepts of the genre, which is good news for us really, as well as the science fiction horror genre as a whole, because a grand old dose of existential crises is exactly what the Doctor ordered. Hello horror fans, what's going on, and once again welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch, as today we curiously take a look at the top 5 SCPs that can end the world, part 3. For the curious amongst you, that clip was from the astounding 2018 science fiction biological horror Annihilation, written and directed by the awesome Alex Garland and based upon the novel of the same name by Jeff Vandermeer. Now if you've seen this film in particular, then you'll know that its villainous anomalous entity could perhaps very much spell the end of the world if it ever broke its containment, but thankfully it's just fictional, so there's nothing to worry about. Right? Kicking off at number 5, SCP-169. And for this particular entry, we're going to be gently dipping our toe into the very specific and terrifying category that is anomalous entities that could potentially spell the end of the world. Let me introduce you to SCP-169, and you can happily rest assured that if it ever did set into play its apocalyptic chain of events and destroy the planet, there'd be literally nothing you could do to save yourself, given the fact that, technically speaking, SCP-169 kind of is the planet. Yeah, let me explain. 169 is the serpentine leviathan of nautical legend, the literal living definition of the serpent that wraps itself around the earth, Jormungandr of Norse legend, the leviathan of the Hebrew Bible, Tiamat of Mesopotamia. In the canon of the SCP Foundation, 169 is the living embodiment of all of them and then some. As the record states, because of its size, 169 cannot and almost certainly will never be contained, given the fact that no structure on Earth is large enough or strong enough to contain it. The location of SCP-169 isn't precisely known, but satellite imagery has vaguely designated it as residing mainly in the southern Atlantic Ocean, possibly stretching to the tip of South America. The Foundation estimates that its body length is anywhere between 2,000 and 8,000 kilometers, and the creature itself is thought to have existed since the Precambrian era. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but on its size alone, SCP-169 could simply cause a global tidal wave just by kicking out in its sleep. I mean, that's if snakes could kick, but you get the idea, right? The Leviathan is based on a legend as old as civilization itself, so it goes without saying that its prime directive is to bring an end to all life on Earth. Thankfully, it seems that the creature is dormant for now. Coming in at number 4, SCP-008. And whilst our previous entry is mythologically light-hearted enough, this particular entry in the Foundation's archives is based upon perhaps one of the most terrifying biological entities known to humanity, an infectious prion disease. Imagine every pandemic or contagion horror movie you've ever seen. Hell, roll in all of the Living Dead apocalypse films too, and they rarely come close to the startling efficiency of this particular zombie plague. In many ways, SCP-008 is the stereotypical breakdown of the virus that would beckon forth the zombie apocalypse. It's even got the whole by removing the head or destroying the brain trope too. But the scariest part of this entry is the suggestion of how our governments will react to having access to it. And that's a whole new level of fear, right? Biological zombie warfare. As the record states, 008 is a complex prion disease with 100% infectiousness, 100% lethality, transmission of which occurs through exposed mucous membranes and all bodily fluids. It's in the efficiency of 008 where the terror truly lies though, because, I mean, come on, even in the bleakest of pandemic horrors, there's some kind of cure or immunity. Nope, not in this case, because this is the SCP Foundation and there is no hope. As we also mentioned, this entry goes one further with the anxiety-ridden implication and states that although all known samples of SCP-008 have otherwise been securely contained with the utmost urgency for security, at some point in 1959 the Russian government took control of one of the discovered samples after working collaboratively with the SCP Foundation, the location of which is now otherwise unknown. Yeah, you know what I'm getting at, right? A zombie apocalypse arms race. That's a terrifying thought. Next up at number 3, SCP-3999. And just as a side note, this entry in particular is awesome and also utterly terrifying, and you'll be pleased to know that it's also vaguely reminiscent of one of my favourite short stories of all time, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, from the mind of the fantastic science fiction writer Harlan Ellison. And maybe that will give you a vague idea of the existential terror that lurks deep within 3999, because unlike the omnipotent dictatorship of the Allied master computer, this anomalous entity does things a little differently. You see, with Within the canon of the SCP Foundation, certain classifications of beings stir more fear than others, and perhaps the most terrifying are the ones that can manipulate the mind itself, and thus the nature of all reality. There are cognitohazards and memetic viruses alike, but 3999 is what is known as a reality bender, an otherwise corporeal entity of unknown origin that can manipulate and potentially destroy reality itself. Thankfully for us, 3999 seems fit to only take out its anomalous torturous desire on one individual in particular, a member of the Foundation staff by the name of researcher Talaran, who, much like the 5 victims of the Allied master computer in Ellison's story, is the perpetual mental slave of the 399 entity, caught in the eternal torment of both psychological and physical misery. Now, take my word for it, the terrifying reality-bending entity within this entry could very much bring about the end of the world with merely a snap of its fingers, but there's a very poignant ending to this Foundation piece that I'm relatively certain you Top 5 Scary Videos viewers will enjoy. Shout out to Lord Stonefish, the creator of this entry, because it's one of my personal favourite picks in the whole of the Foundation archives, and it's masterfully written. You know what, there'll be links down below. Swinging in at number 2, SCP-001, the Gate Guardian, otherwise known as Dr. Clef's proposal. And as you may know if you're familiar with the SCP Foundation on a whole, the first entry in the organisation's archive, 001, isn't exactly clear in its portrayal. In fact, 001 is made up of over 30 different possible proposals as to what the entry in particular actually is, as in it may entirely be possible to be none of them, one of them, or even all of them. The one that we're concerned with though is perhaps one of its most popular, the Gate Guardian, which outlines knowledge of a colossal being made from pure energy that wields a sword with the ability to annihilate anything that passes too close, destroying it at an atomic level. If that's not already terrifying enough, the entity also guards the entrance to the Abrahamic Garden of Eden, located by anomalous means somewhere between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and has been doing so for as long as the Foundation has been around, and in fact inspired the Foundation to be created. And that may give you a semblance of an idea as to where we're going with this particular entry, because when we apply the end of the world to the Gate Guardian, what we really mean is the rapture, the end of days, the classical biblical depiction of hellfire, damnation, and death. And if that's not already bad enough, the Gate Guardian has technically already ended the world after leaving his post, opening the gate and letting an unknown entity pour forth into our world, where the Foundation subsequently declared an XK class end of the world scenario and pretty much went into has well and truly hit the fan mode. However, as the record states in SCP-001, knowledge of this event was actually sent through anomalous means from the future, warning the Foundation of the dangers that the Gate Guardian is currently containing. Now, all of this obviously could be hodgepodge, as it's very clear that it will never be certain as to which 001 proposal is true. But if it's this one, yeah, there's probably no coming back from this one. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, SCP-4023. And as a horror fan, this one is awesome, if not utterly terrifying, and conceptually speaking, SCP-4023 is perhaps one of the most horrifyingly original entries that I've seen in a long time. However, as with many things in the SCP Foundation, it does take quite a while to wrap your head around its technical intricacies. But once you do, yeah, you'll be like me and have the prior knowledge that this entry in particular is going to end really badly. Let me explain, and really all you need to do is keep the number 23 firmly in your mind. As the record states, 4023 is an Apollyon class object that is seemingly made up of a collection of 23 anomalous objects, events, and entities which are currently being investigated by the Foundation's researchers as to their true nature. Although they do already have an equally terrifying hypothesis, and it revolves around a figure referred to as SCP-4023-18, otherwise known as the Entity, an extra-dimensional malevolent force that is seeking to enter our dimension on the 2nd of March 2023. It is believed by the Foundation that this entity in question has been creating anomalies that relate to the number 23 in our world, as well as many other realities, in order to act as a nexus for its arrival into our plane of existence. Although only speculatively, its goal is to merge with the 13 current O5 council members, where it will enter a state of completion in which the entity will consist of 23 connected parts, the other 10 being comprised of itself and the 9 missing members of a previously extinct O6 council that were absorbed by the entity. Yeah, it's complicated, but that's the terrifying beauty of this particular entity. It's the fear of the unknown that drives its nightmarish narrative. We don't know what SCP-4023 will do, can do, or is already doing, but it does mean one thing. Whatever it is, it will more than likely herald the end of the world. But that's just another day for the SCP Foundation. isn't it? Well, there we have it, horror fans, our list for the top 5 SCPs that can end the world. Part 3. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Have any more to add? Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, as well as any choice picks of your own. Before we depart from today's video though, if you're interested in continuing on with the good old fashioned terrors of the SCP Foundation, then please make sure you check out our playlist compiled conveniently for your viewing enjoyment. On that note, unfortunately that's all we've got time for in today's video. Cheers for sticking around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video, or just top 5 scary videos in particular, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe bell, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host Jack Finch. You'll be watching top 5 scary videos. Until next time, you take it easy.